Everybody, the time is 6 p.m. We are here live on Animal House Radio, and we got a special guest in the house, an old friend of the show who dropped by to talk about his brand new album. Please welcome back on the show, Mr. Robert Berry. Robert, how the hell are you?
I am doing, hate to say it, fantastic. A lot of people don't say that right now over the last year, but I'm doing good. And you? You doing good?
You know what? I'm still on top of the dirt, so that's a good thing.
There you go. Yeah.
Just keeping myself busy, like I'm sure that you've been doing. And I can't imagine how hard it's been for, I've really, as a comedian myself, I feel for my craft, but the musicians, though, I feel so bad for them because of how, especially somebody like you who's always on the road and busy. It's got to be such a big adjustment. You just have to stop.
Yeah, the one difference for me is that I have this studio where I'm talking to you from now. You might see it in the background here, the board and stuff.
Yeah. Not that you're bragging.
My day job is, I get to work with other musicians every day, and thankfully for me, and since I play a lot of instruments and I produce things for quite a while for a lot of solo artists, they all came flocking in last year. So one at a time, I got to have somebody in easily. I'm the king of the alcohol spray anyway. I had to live like a singer all my life, So when you're a singer or a comedian, if you're on the road, when you shake people's hands, if you don't have Purell somewhere close by, you're going to get a cold. You're going to sound like shit the next day or the next night. I mean, you can't afford to be sick when you're on the road.
Yeah.
And I've been living like that for 35 years, sort of as germ-free as possible. As far as, if someone sneezes, I'm like, run for shelter, And I keep the studio, clean, but not sanitized like I did last year. But every switch, chair, the microphone, windscreens, everything was Purelled basically every day, when I have people coming in. So
what's funny, Robert? I've been doing comedy since 1987, and I don't think Purell is going to help any of the groupies that I've been with.
Well, another thing about comedy is the podcast has been the biggest thing for comedy for quite a while. There's guys making really good money doing comedy podcasts because a lot of people tune into them.
Well, that's what I did. I we had the show, and the pre-COVID in 3 years. You were on a few years ago. I remember we had such a great interview with you, and actually you came to our area, but we couldn't get out to the show, and I really wanted to see you. But I said to myself, you don't want to lose your relevance, so you got to keep putting out content. So I started doing stuff from my house 2 or 3 times a week, and then I got a little burnt out, but knock on wood, we still had the draw and the fan base, so we really didn't lose any traction.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's what, for me, it's about living as normally as you can. What do you do? How do you do it? Like my wife, Rebecca, and I, we go out to dinner 3 nights a week. That's what we like to do. So we're shut down last year. You can only get food to go. We get the food. We park in front of the restaurant. What's the difference? We have a Tesla X. You sit in the Tesla or you're in the booth. What's the difference, really? Right. And so we got to serve ourselves. That's the difference, I guess. So we did that, or else we went up by the water tower. There's a big parking garage here in downtown Campbell. You can see over the whole town. We'd sit up there and eat dinner like a date night. There's that. There's figuring out how to run your business in that type of shutdown. Like I said, one guy at a time. I did a couple of bands. I gave them time for live broadcast because, again, they only make money when they tour. A band like Tempest, which is a Celtic rock band that I've produced 13 albums on.
Oh, wow,
and they have herd immunity within themselves. So I say, you guys come down here. I'm going to give you a couple of free Facebook Live broadcasts so you make some money, But basically, one person at a time, out to eat 3 nights a week.
Yeah.
I live normal. I tried to. And you need to reframe those negative things into positive things however you can. You just have... A lot of people didn't sit back and look at it. They stayed locked in their house the whole time. They didn't even go outside.
Yeah, it shook a lot of people. And, what I tried to do was, like I said, I was putting out the content. But for me personally, I tried to watch anything that was uplifting, like comedies and Dean Martin roasts and Sanford and Son and Everybody Loves Raymond. And it's funny what you were talking about going out to eat. You got to wear a mask in a restaurant. And as soon as you sit down, you can take it off and there's no COVID there. Yeah. But as soon as you sit up, you have to put a mask on. COVID's right above your head.
Yeah. Yo, well, what else is funny in California now? Well, actually, everywhere the mask mandate has been released by the CDC, right? You don't have to wear
Yes.
a mask at all. I was watching a thing on the news, a psychiatrist on say people are going to have a really hard time. They're traumatized. They've been trained to use the mask. They're going to have to detrain themselves, to not wear a mask. I'm like, oh, wow. I mean, this is really strange, what we've been through. I could see that. I have a friend that's been indoors for a whole year, and he got sick. He goes, "How did I get sick? I've been indoors. I haven't done anything." Well, you're depressed. You don't do anything. Of course you're sick. Your
Yeah.
immune
Yeah.
system, you have to figure out how to live as normally as possible and be safe at the same time.
You know what's funny? You know what this pandemic reminds you of? Because the news cycle, if you sit and watch the news all day, you'll be. And remember the War of the Worlds broadcast with Orson Welles? Like
Yes.
how they scared the shit out of people. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah. 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 You got to stay away from that stuff. You have to go with little instinct on this, right? I mean,
Yeah.
all we can do. And I was lucky that I had this album in waiting to be done that I wasn't going to do. Last
Right.
time we talked, it was an album called The Rules That Changed 2 years ago, 2.5 years
Yes.
ago. And it was Keith Emerson's last work. He committed suicide in the middle of it. It became a pretty big deal. The album was welcomed with open arms. I was so pleased to show that he had everything he always had. The album was, really, people loved the music. He went out with a bang, kind of with his art, let's say.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to do it. That was it. I mean, he's gone. The record company calls me and say, you did really well with that album. We have everybody. We have Yes, we have Journey. We have everybody on our label from the 80s, let's say, all the big bands. We can't tell you what they sold, but you did really well. You should do a follow-up. I said, well, I don't want to do a follow-up. He's gone. Don't you have any
Yeah.
songs left you wrote? I said, well, I have one. Yeah, there's one left that I keep it on my hard drive. That's my own personal little trophy, little thing that's just, they said, well, consider it. You did really well. You have an opportunity to put that song out and you get it received in a big way. So I said, you know what? If I write 7 more songs that I think Keith would have wanted to work on, I feel good about them. They serve the parameters that Keith and I had put together. I'll consider it. So the 7 songs just came out of me fairly easily. There was still even to write. It depends on the mood and everything else. All kinds of things that make you write a song. But it happened. I didn't have to struggle to do it. So I finished up that last song Keith and I had worked on called Never. It was 9 minutes long. That's why it wasn't on the last album. But I just didn't need another 9-minute song.
Right.
And when I got it done and I sent it to the record company and my manager over in England, they said, this album's really good. You need to put it out. So I said, oh good. Okay, well, I guess I've achieved what I needed to achieve. But the day before it came out, I was like, oh, geez. The Rules That Changed was just open arms from people. They just really loved it. They let it in. They cherished it. It was the best.
You were nervous. You weren't gonna duplicate the thunder. In other words,
that as a comedian, you have a good night. The next night, you think, God, I hope it's as good as last night, right?
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely.
It depends on the audience. That's the problem.
Right. Wow.
You could do the same show, and maybe the audience is the same. They're not going to think of you the same. They're not in the same mood, and it's not as good a show. I should have left it where it was. I thought the next day it came out. The reviews about 70% better than the last album. He's done it again. Oh, wow, it was such a thrill for me because also it made me feel like, all right, if I keep going with this, the fan base that accepted in '88 Keith, Carl, and I, fan base accepted just Keith and I in 2016 is still there, and they're liking the direction I'm heading. So it was good.
But you wanted to do it for Keith and Carl. You wanted to make sure that you got it done. It was sort of like you became a man on a mission, in other words, and once you got motivated.
Yeah, that was a lot of it to show that the music and actually basically Keith and I, what we had learned in the 27 years between the first 2 albums and the parameters we had set out to do the next album with, those were the right things. We knew what our style of music, we knew what that fan base wanted and what of us we put out that strengthened that, and it worked. So that was the good news.
Well, you know what, the last song that you did, where Keith got involved is probably the last remnants that you're ever going to hear of ELP again. So that was sort of like a good thing in a way. Not, wish we had more, but at least we got a piece for it,
And that's why the record company said, you should put that out. You should do it. And it's a ELP material has been repackaged and box sets, everything. There doesn't seem to be anything that wasn't used before, and anything by Keith since. Well, after 3, there was ELP got back together, did one pretty good album, and then after that, there was nothing really notable anyway.
Right.
The Change came out on Keith's part, and then this one. So, and people are really liking that last song called Never, and they're hearing his thing. What he contributed to it. So.
Yeah, I mean, for the album, and we're talking about the new release of the album, Third Impression, by Robert Berry. I actually liked Black of Night and A Fond Farewell.
Nice.
Because I like the whole the video was really cool, and you're doing everything yourself too. That's another amazing thing.
Well, it's not. How do I put it? It's not so look, I can do everything myself. It's because I'm the last guy now left that knows.
You're the last man standing.
Yeah, I'm the one that knows the parameters. Know what we talked about, did the code. Yeah, think of it this way. I mean, I was an ELP fan before I even met Keith. When I was really young, my dad had a piano and organ store that took on Vox guitars and amps with what the Beatles used. They also licensed a Moog synthesizer to sit on top of home organs. It's a little tiny thing. And I used it in my band. I played Lucky Man. When I was really young, I was like, oh, this is cool. So I played some of the easier ELP stuff. Sort of became part of what I like. I mean, I'll show you over here. You might not be able to see. I'll move this over. But that's the Moog back there. I use it on stuff all the time. It's just part of sort of my sound too. I've not inherited it. It's in my DNA, let's say.
Right.
I was a fan with that. Then I was half the writer on the first album, and the voice, the singer, and Keith was half the writer and the sound with the keyboards. So you bring it forward. We're still the same pieces. We split the writing. And I'm the voice, he's the sound. I just happened to have played keyboards, and every time I worked with him and I watched him touring or writing, it was like a piano lesson for me. I go, oh, that's how he does that. Oh, wow. It just became part of me and what I like. I like that big keyboard sound, so it wasn't a stretch for me to have to play that stuff. What was interesting, though, is I said it wasn't that hard for me to write. It was still a big chunk of work. It took me a year to do it.
Right.
But it came out naturally because it's part of my DNA. It's part of what I like as a musician. Right. Influenced by it. And it's just there. And I'm hoping I can get a little bit to go away because I need to move forward now. This is the last 3 album, even though it's under 3.2.
Right.
I'll show you. In fact, I'm pressing a vinyl. If I can grab these. It's on the website, but not everybody wants vinyl, but in '88,
vinyl's making a comeback. Don't laugh.
Well,
I see people still buying it.
This is 1988. They still had vinyl then. They were getting rid of that for CDs, right? So 2016, I got the rights back from the record company. It's on the website. You can buy the vinyl of the last album, and for me, that doesn't hold up. That's not what I want on my wall. So I'm making a vinyl. Third Impression. So that the people that want it, actually Third Impression is going to be very rare. There's only 200 of them. It's a mean streak I have. I want it to be 100 are sold already in pre-orders. Just want it to be.
Oh, wow.
It won't be here till the middle of June. Really scarce. A few people have it. They can talk that they have it. It's a special thing for me. I'm ending it. And it's just the greatest time of my life working with Keith on these things. So.
Yeah, well, it's a tribute to him, and you should, memorialize that time. And it's really cool that, even though we've had you on the show before, I never knew that you were a fan of Keith before you even got to work with him. That had to be really cool. Like, it's like an actor, liking De Niro and then being able to work with him or something.
Seriously, that my dad had this home organ called Thomas organs that Lawrence Welk used on his show. If you know what Lawrence Welk is, it was
You're
like
showing your age now, Robert.
Well, my dad's, that's when I was little, that's what made him all his money. All these old
Yeah.
people going and buy a Thomas organ that was on the Lawrence Welk show. They bought them by the hundreds, right?
Yeah.
You can't, I mean, organ's a thing of the past now, but they put a Moog on top. Why Thomas Organ Company knew when the Beatles came out that they should import Vox from England, the kind of amps the Beatles use and guitars that so many bands use, and why they thought they should license a Moog synthesizer for an organ that old ladies played, you know?
Yeah.
It was just crazy. And look at how that fell into my lap. I'm a big Vox fan, but not just because the Beatles used it, but I mean, Brian May of Queen, that's his sound, the Vox amp.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Tom Petty, you know, all these people, that jangly sound, U2, that's what the Edge uses, a Vox amp, AC30. It just happened. That's part of my DNA too. You know, it's just when I was really, I mean, I was 9 years old, and the guys that were in the famous bands here in the 60s, there's a band called Count Five, had a song called Psychotic Reaction.
Yes. Wow.
They're from here. They'd come in with these hot chick girlfriends. I was this little guy, and you know, we'd have the Vox Super Beetle amps and all the guitars and the Moog on top of the old lady organ, and they'd want to see all this stuff. I'm going, wow, this looks like a pretty good way to go, this rock and roll band thing, you know. Look at these guys.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Were you influenced by the amps or the hot chicks?
Well, you know, the amps I used to straighten up and dust and stuff, so that was not that big a deal. But the guys that had the hit record, they were dressed kind of cool, and they had these hot girlfriends. You know, 9 years old.
That's for me, huh?
Yeah, that was definitely. I mean, my dad used to sit me at the San Jose Civic when the Who would come through, when the Animals would come through. Animals use Vox. Dave Clark 5 used Vox. This is mid 60s probably. I mean, I was little, but he'd sit me back there with a spare amplifier because they didn't tour with amplifiers except for their own in a van in those days. Right. So I'd sit with the stage manager with the spare amps. I saw things like Keith Moon's drum set that had naked ladies printed all over it. I think I was 10 at that point. I'm like, yeah, this is even getting more interesting. This rock and roll band thing, you know. It was.
Oh wow.
Influenced me. Look at this. My mom was 8 months pregnant before the band knew. My mom was a singer in my dad's big band. And
oh wow. Oh, so you have a musical background. Okay, so that's cool. Yeah.
I was on stage in the womb when my mom was singing Frank Sinatra songs, you know.
There you go.
So, yeah.
That's very cool. I like that. Yeah. What, you know, now that this album is going to be the last with the remnants of Keith Emerson and stuff.
Yeah.
So going forward, is it going to be a hard transition for you to adapt your writing style to keep it, you know, to make, now it's got to be Robert Berry, you know, succinctly.
I made a conscious choice on this album to do half of it in the 3 style. After all, I only had one song with Keith that was 9 minutes long.
Right, that's a bathroom song, as the DJs used to say.
Yeah,
Stairway to Heaven.
Way too long. But, you know, it's almost half an album that way. So, and the decision by me was, okay, half this album I'm going to move more toward what I do on my own. With Keith, of course, it was keyboard heavy, like Fond Farewell, and you've seen the video. They did a great job.
I loved it. Yeah.
I haven't seen a video that really made sense and was that cool since the old, when MTV played videos, you know.
They don't make them like that no more, Robert. I wish they did. Even though they were, you look at them now, they might seem cheesy, but you know what? They told the story, and they made the viewer and the listener want to take the journey toward the song.
That's what it was too. It took you on the journey. It is, if they were campy or they were, you know, sexy or really deep, whatever it was. It wasn't just a bunch of pictures behind a song, or like we do a lot of lyric videos now with just clip art kind of put together.
Right.
They really did a fantastic job in that. And that was the more Emerson, even a Black and Night, more Emerson sound of stuff, the more 3 stuff. The first song on the album was done intentionally toward where I'm going to move to, which my thing is sort of half guitar, half keyboards. That's not all keyboards. It's sort of the perfect blend. So the whole album starts off with about a minute of acoustic Celtic guitar doing
Right.
this.
Oh,
And I
wow.
did it on purpose. I thought, either I'm going to scare people and go, "Hey, where's the keyboards? This is a guitar crap. What's going on here?"
Right, right.
Or they're going to sit through it waiting because they know there has to be keyboards. Emerson's involved in this album in some way.
Right.
And hopefully by the end of that song, which is fairly long too, they're hearing the guitar, the kind of guitar stuff, and me a little bit harder edge that they like. Then
Right.
I've got them going, well, this is pretty good. I like this thing.
You're
And
you're, you're slowly luring them away into the yeah. But
that's what
I like what you said. It's not all keyboard like an Asia song.
right. Yeah. And Steve Howe was in that band, and there was just little frilly things here and there, Um, more like, well, Steve in Yes was like that, it was some
Yeah.
great guitar stuff, some great keyboard stuff. There's a few bands. I mean, even Genesis, as great as Tony Banks. The songs are based on keyboards, but all the guitar playing in the Genesis songs, Peter Gabriel stuff, is tremendous. And of course, I'm a big Jeff Beck fan, so
Who isn't?
I just love that guitar. So
Yeah.
that anyway, it took people on a ride, and it goes up and down through different styles, but it stays true to the three sound on about half the songs. If I keep people with me, the next album next year will be more of that. I'm already writing some stuff, and I have some ideas where it's going to go. But until I really sit down and do it, you never know.
Right. Well, I would imagine that COVID, even though you said you've been keeping busy with the studio
Yeah.
and stuff, which is, that's great because that helped you get through it. But um, this pandemic cause you to be more creative and sit down and say, "Hey, I got to write"? Was it what you must have been flowing with stuff, ideas to come out of you?
Well, the Third Impression was written first half right after it shut down. I had the one song with Keith, but I had to come up with 8 more.
Oh,
So,
wow.
um, but it's just kind of what I do too. I mean, I've
Yeah.
been really lucky because I am a songwriter, singer, and a lot of these older guys that had big careers, they kind of don't have that spark anymore for new songs. And especially if they say, well, no one's buying albums, there's no reason to put out any music, we're not going to make any money, only make money on touring, which is all true. But I know if you keep that creative spark alive and you're excited about it, it's kind of energizes everything else. So when you do go out and play, you don't
Sure.
like a tribute band or something. You sell your CD, you sign it. People still want that. It's the same way in the comedy world. Probably after the show, people want to meet you. They want to
Right.
buy. I don't
Sell your
know,
merchandise. Yeah. Hmm.
whatever it is: hats, T-shirts, CDs, DVDs, a live show. I mean, people like that when they see you.
Right. Well, and that was my whole thing during this pandemic. I love to perform. Don't get me wrong, Robert. I can't wait to go back out on the road. But here's my issue. And I saw an interview with Jerry Seinfeld. He was doing 60 Minutes, and I kind of agree with him. And I know life's not here for me and all that, but I don't want to do it until it's not compromised anymore. It's not natural for a comedian to go out on stage and be behind plexiglass. It's not going to be the same experience for me, and it's definitely not going to be the same experience for the audience member. Um, but you know, that being said, I mean, now that I think things are starting to open up, even though I just heard this morning that Motley Crue is postponing their tour for another year, and I get it.
Oh,
Will it make you? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was surprised. When I saw they were booked on this, I thought, well, there's a fan base that'll probably go out with reckless abandonment and come and see them. But
Right.
if they were playing a 2,500 seater, I think they could pack it
Oh
because
yeah.
it's smaller. Like a 250 seat club, I would not worry so much about playing that. I think
Right.
enough fans will come out that feel they're safe and have been, inoculated, whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, Motley Crue was doing 10,000 seater arenas and stuff, right? I don't
Yeah.
think enough people are going to be feeling comfortable when the ushers have to be paid, the ticket takers, the guy that sells you the Coke, the merch people, the management, the place that owns the arena, the band, the lighting guys, the PA guy. There's so many people who need to make money. They need to sell it out or get close to it. I don't think that big of a show is going to sell out. And I think that's really the reason they put it back a year.
I don't know because you got to figure, and like you said that the '80s fan base, they're animals. They're reckless abandon. They don't care. And I think if any tour had potential, that would be it because and what I like about all the '80s music is like, and with bands like Foreigner, Def Leppard, Judas Priest. When you go to a show now, if you go to a recent show, you got 5 and 6 generations of people in that audience. Whereas when they first came out on the road, they had their core audience that bought their
Yep.
records or read about them in a magazine because that's basically the only uh, outlet that you had back then. There was no social media, you know. Um, but that being said, now when you're ready to go out on the road, is it going to make you appreciate performing even more, knowing that like something like this could happen again? Like for example, an athlete that has a career-ending injury and he can't play anymore. Is it going to make you appreciate what you do even more when you get to go out live again?
Yeah, athletes have to peak at such a young age, right? A lot of them, you get into your 40s, let's say, you're not going to be competing. That makes me sad for them if they're missing opportunities. The Olympics and the stuff coming up, in Tokyo. Uh, my wife's daughter, Taylor, the stepdaughter. I don't like the sound of that, but
Right, right.
she runs for Puma shoes, and
Oh wow.
she's going to Olympic trials here pretty soon in Oregon. And if she makes it, I don't think there is an Olympics. So, she has to wait another 4 years.
Wow.
That's kind of tough. And now she's young. She's only 24, 23, actually. But for some musicians, you talk about Foreigner, we at least want to see Mick
Mick
Jones.
Jones.
We at least
Yeah.
want to see him. And he doesn't even do that many shows with them now. But I doubt if they play, and they are playing actually. He's probably not on any of them, being his age. And if he doesn't get out there soon, he won't be able to get out there. I mean, there's an expiration date on being able to shake your butt and play guitar on stage.
I know the pandemic really shook him up. He was having a hard time with it. And we spoke to
Yeah.
Kelly, and I'll tell you, Kelly Hansen, he is a beast, man. I mean, Lou Graham was amazing, but Kelly has got just as big a voice, and he's a lot more animated on stage.
Yeah, there's something about the guy that made it up, though, and not taking anything away from him because he is tremendous. But Lou Graham is one of my favorites,
Oh
and
yeah,
he made it up, and nobody sang like him, you know.
yeah,
And
without a doubt, yeah,
I tell you, at that tone, and he's had a lot of health issues and stuff along the way, but
yeah.
yeah, but Foreigner sounds great. I mean, there's probably not a better band out there that's kept the flame alive, even though there's only the one guy that shows up sometimes, but
Right.
it's so good. If you're going to do it at top level. As far as playing, I've already booked a show for next year, April, that we can't announce yet. It's a festival, and I would have been playing last year. We got closed down in March. I would have played a show in April, only because I've lived like a singer my whole life. I'm not
Right.
worried about getting it. I played Madison Square Gardens in April maybe of 1988 with Keith Carl and myself. I can pull out that coat, and there's a bottle of Purell, a little tiny bottle of Purell in that coat, because I can't afford to touch doorknobs or put my hand on, even on a restaurant menu, when they're covered in plastic.
Oh yeah, yeah.
If
No,
the
I get
next,
it.
yeah, if the next guy, if the before me is sneeze or something, it's still on there, and I can't live like a hermit, so I'd Purell my
Right.
hands, and I'd make sure I'm not going to get it. I felt the same way about this, although I know it's much more dangerous than that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I guess Howie Mandel had the right idea all these years.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be that weird, but yeah, he was a little weird about it.
Yeah,
I
but
was just, I was cautious. I say, look, everybody, you have to live like a singer now. That's all. I've been living like that my whole life. Not like
yeah,
Howie, who you can't touch him and stuff. I
yeah,
just,
yeah.
man,
So, for people who want to get the album, they can go to robertberry.com, and it's on all the major platforms, I would assume.
yeah, that's the best place to find it. I'm not selling it, although, like I said, I got the rights back to do the vinyl. The record company wasn't going to do it, so I'm doing that, and that's pre-order is on my website, along with T-shirt for it too, because I keep the rights to that stuff from the record company. But I just wanted there to be vinyls for each of the three albums, so Yeah, and all the streaming platforms, where to buy it, Amazon, all that, it'll lead you there. Definitely.
Well, I recommend everybody checking it out, especially all our men and women overseas who listen to us and watch us on American Forces Network, and all our fan base. I mean, right now, I mean, it seems that we're coming out of it, but you never know. And I want to let everybody know that, right now we need music more than ever because it's going to go places that the medicine can't, and it's what's getting. I talk to so many people, Robert, and they say if it wasn't for music or lighthearted TV, they don't know what they would have done to get through this.
Yeah, it's funny how important music always. People love it. We got to go to show. I got to see Def Leppard, got to see Foreigner, or whatever. It's been a big part of what we do, but it's really come to the forefront as being important for the social part of it, not just the music part of it. When we go to shows, and same with comedy. I mean, you go to a show. We go to the Comedy Store down here in San Jose.
Okay,
don't even have to know the name of the people. A lot of times there'll be 3 people never heard of, because we know it's going to be good.
Right, and it's a night out, and you can laugh. It don't have to be a major headliner. I mean, it'd be nice if it was, but you're going to laugh either way.
Hey, we've gone to see some headliners where the guy sort of, one of you guys always runs the show, right? And you come out between, you do the opening set, then you go between each guy, right?
Right.
And that guy's been so much better than the headliner, who's a big name you've seen on TV and stuff. And they're sort of like phoning it in, doing their thing.
Yeah. It's got to be Jimmy Walker.
Yeah. Well, then again, we saw Arsenio Hall, which we didn't expect a lot from. I haven't seen him for years. And he was smoking hot. He's so good.
Yeah.
It was a funny show, but I won't name any names that we thought sort of.
No, I hear you. No,
But there's other guys that you haven't heard of that they're so good that we just really want to be able to get back to that. Eating in the car was fine, trying to live normally, trying to emulate a normal life. That helped our psychology, our psycho minds, But going to the Comedy Store again, having dinner there, and being around people that like comedy, that's a whole kind of a little bit
just
different.
the simple things that we sort of took for granted that are going to nurse us back to health mentally, emotionally.
Yeah. Who knows this all the time is the servicemen that are shipped off overseas, that they'll once in a while bring somebody in just to entertain them, and that hasn't happened a lot lately, like it used to in the old days.
With the USO, yeah.
I tried to get some of those shows from my December People band. December People does classic rock songs that like Stairway to Heaven, morphed with the biggest holiday tunes, Stairway to Heaven and The Night Before Christmas, or Angel We've Heard on High with Journey's Don't Stop Believing. And we morphed them together. And I thought, I got to get on a USO or some kind of service tour, get out there. Because being a comedian, they get the joke, right? When we put it together, they'll, oh my God, how'd you get that? And it sounds just like, what's the one, like Running on a Dream, Tom Petty, is Silver Bell.
Okay.
And it fits like a glove, right? And first of all, they laugh, and then they realize, oh my God, I can sing Silver Bells, or ZZ Top LaGrange, I better watch out, better not cry. It fits perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
I really wanted to do those shows. We never quite made it happen, but I'm aware of the isolation and giving up the normal part of your life that you leave sort of behind to serve this country. It's really important. And I think it's important to give those guys a sense of normalcy too, however that can happen.
Oh, yeah. One of the things when I was proud to find out that I was going to be able to submit my show so our men and women can hear it, but I usually have a co-host with me. His name is, he's a retired Air Force general, 3-star general, who actually was our commander of U.S. forces in Japan. And Jerry sits in with me every once in a while. And every time we have a celebrity guest on, even though he's not available today, he always makes sure that as much as we owe it to ourselves to say thank you to our men and women for our service, you have no idea as a musician or for example, we had Brad Garrett on and Larry the Cable Guy. You don't know how important it is for that maybe 1 hour or half hour that they get of downtime.
Yeah.
Because you got to realize, Robert, they are in dark places where the bottom can drop out at any minute, you know.
Yeah.
And just if they can watch an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond, or listen to ZZ Top or ELP, you know, and for a few minutes it brings you back to home, and it helps you keep that sanity. So, you know, he always makes sure that I tell whoever we have on, thank you for the entertainment value that you guys provide. It's so important.
Well, let's hope your average person who felt they couldn't go outside now gets a little more closer to their heart and their mind what our servicemen and women are going through. Because like you said, it can change in a snap of fingers, right?
Absolutely.
The world is so volatile today. And I think if people will think about it that way, they're too busy trying to, this is going to be terrible to say, they're too busy trying to change everything with the woke generation to really worry about what this really important stuff's, you know, protecting our country and helping other countries too. They just need to think about, wow, what we just went through. These guys, no matter girls, all the time are going through a situation like that.
Right. It could be a lot worse, right? You know, but I think as a country we pulled through. I think, you know, even though it took a pandemic to show the united front that I always knew America had, a lot of people stepped up, and it was really admirable. Like I said, a negative into a positive. And it's always great to talk to you, and, you know, continued success. And, you know, you got to let us know when you're coming back in the area, and we'll make sure we get a little heavy handed with the promoter the last time, because he was kind of like, I don't have any tickets for you guys. I'm like, what are you kidding me? But something happened. You were playing in our area, and the promoter was kind of, I don't remember what it was. You were playing in Jersey somewhere. I'm like, Robert, we're going to come out to see you. And he's like, I don't have no tickets for you. This was a couple of years ago. But
well, we'll definitely get together on that, because you know, they do that stuff behind my back. They think
I know.
Negotiate the contract, and they have all the parameters that they can do whatever they want. And I don't work that way. You know, I go out and tour so I can actually shake people's hands with Purell on.
Purell. I don't look to, you know, to complain. I just,
no.
I enjoy meeting, you know, our guests and stuff, and showing support. So, you know, I didn't make a big deal of it, because
I want to thank people and, like I say, shake their hand. That's the only reason I tour, because I don't have to. I'm working with people all the time in the studio. I got different albums. I mean, I want to go out like you do as a comedian. You want that give and take thing going on, you know?
Yeah.
And I just love it. You know, I go out and play, and people bring albums from the band I had here in town. But how did they get this album? You know?
Yeah, it's amazing what they come up with. Yeah.
It is. I want to shake their hands. Say, I mean, thank you for, you know, letting me make my life and my career in music pay for my life. You know, it's because you guys, and you don't get to do that face to face often enough. So,
well, you're one of the rare few that actually, you know, there's a lot of artists that do appreciate their fans, but I think you take it to a whole nother level, and especially, you know, under the circumstances now. But I look forward to hopefully seeing you when you get back out on the road, and you know, you have an open door anytime you want to come on, Robert.
Fantastic. Well, John will definitely be talking to you early next year too about all this going on. So I got a bunch of product thing coming out, DVDs and stuff. So
oh yeah, you just let me know, and we'll and I want everybody to check out robertberry.com. And if you want to pick up the album Third Impression, it's available on Amazon. I'm doing Amazon and iTunes together. There's an idea. Amazon and iTunes, pick it up. Show your support for this fantastic artist. He's a veteran of the game, and he deserves our support. Robert, continued success. And like I said, anytime you need us, we are here for you, my friend.
I appreciate that. Let's get December people overseas to entertain some people. We'll figure that out.
Absolutely.
I'd love to give back on that level, because I know we have to go, but I mean, I got the guitar player from Boston, the drummer for Sammy Hagar, keyboard player from the Tubes. I mean, these are all, talk about seasoned veterans.
Oh, wow. Maybe we could put together a live event or something that we could stream overseas.
That would be cool. Yeah, we'll see if we're going to book anything this year. It's November. We only play November, December. So by then, might be okay. We'll see.
We might be able to do something. You never know. You're sitting at home. You got them creative juices flowing. You never know.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much. Robert Berry, everybody. Please check out robertberry.com. Robert, thanks, and God bless. Be safe.
You too.
Go out and get some Purell.
There you go. Oh, I got lots. See you later.
Take care. Bye.